Type of life makes you go faster than you expect to sometimes. Fuck around and be in your late 20s feeling like an old man and shit. Yeah, for real, son. Let them know. It's hard to breathe and hard to run when your lungs blacken. Coughing up blood like, what the fuck happened? Raising my risk of cancer's the answer, homie. But after drinking something, it's nothing like puffing a bunkie. Now I can blame the same product placement in movies, all the commercials, a Scarface and a jacuzzi. But now I'm living it. Damn, I should've never took that first cigarette. I fucked up like your girl was riding on top of me. I should've took her to trial and never got the plea. But this ain't a Christian nation, motherfucker, please. America never told me to turn the other cheek. Cause I'm from Harlem, the north of Manhattan. We knock niggas out and make them bounce like Ricky Hatton. But while they're on the corner got me turned back from the Canadian border. I knew she was a virgin when I first met her. Rockin' stockings and popping out of the Catholic school sweater. Mom told me she could do better than a criminal. 17-year-old psychotic trying to be lyrical. I never meant to break her heart and fuck up her life, but I was careless instead of treating her right. I seen her again at some club stripping and wondered if I could have made her life different. Damn, shorty, you got me on some singing and blues shit. You gotta stop looking back one time and remember to look ahead. It's all my dudes on patrol in the desert right now, for real. I joined the army looking for money to go to college, but they ain't paid me a quarter of what they fucking promised. Extending my tour, treating me like a sucker. That's the reason officers get fragged, motherfucker. Don't give me speeches on how you respect and you love me, but no body armor and a lightly armored Humvee. My family's lonely, and you want me to re-enlist for 30 grand, homie? No. When I was young, I got signed to a record label. A deal looked so good when it was on the table. It paid for my cable, cribs, cars, and jewelry. The studios, the women, there's nothing they wouldn't do for me except stop screwing me for publishing and royalties. How the fuck are you my dog when there's no loyalty? Word to the street, I should've gone independent like a mortal technique. Some people learn from mistakes and don't repeat them. Others try to block the memories and just delete them. But I keep them as a reminder they not killing me. And I thank God for teaching me humility. Son, remember when you fight to be free, you see things how they are and not how you like them to be. Cause even when the world is falling on top of me, pessimism is an emotion, not a philosophy. Knowing what's wrong doesn't imply that you're right, and it's another when you suffer to apply it in life. But I'm no rookie, and I'm never gonna make the same mistake twice, pussy. I'll never make a mistake. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Made a mistake. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Don't look so far from her. It was me and the rain. Lost because of mine. When the tears dry and I forgot how you hurt me, and I remember how you loved me. And I forgot how you hurt me. Just got real.
So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me back on Fighting the Enemy, little talk show shit I got going on, Standing on Your Head, where I speak with, average people as myself, an average person, and I'm looking to dig into some personal experiences and personal insights on the dating landscape. And so today I have a special guest joining me, and I'm going to set up that Zoom right now soon. Don't want them waiting there too long. Someone that I was on a Valentine's Day event earlier this year, which I'd still been meaning to dissect and make a separate video on. And her name is Terry. I'm very happy to see her again, and let's go ahead and pull her up. Might have to give her a phone call just to see if she's there. There we go. Let's see what I got going on here. Hey, hello Terry, good morning. Excuse me, good afternoon. What's going on? Oh, that's what it was. Accent on mute. See if I can turn on my camera here. There we go. Screen share.
I'm trying to turn on my camera as well.
Yeah. So yesterday, I know I had. See, it's not. So right now on the stream, everyone can see my face. You can't, and I don't know why. For the love of me, why? I guess there's some kind of glitch with the other applications. So, if you're watching from YouTube, you'll see that my face is shown, but for whatever reason, Zoom won't let me turn on my camera while the other applications are running. I don't know why. It's very, very odd. Maybe I should have spent some more time trying to figure that out.
That's fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I certainly hear you.
Okay, great.
Wait, maybe I'm supposed to click that, and maybe that's when you can turn your video on there. There we go. So, well, it's good. It's good to see your face again. Sorry that you're talking to a blank screen. Just like I explained, I don't know why I'll click it right now and it just keeps saying cannot start. But like I said, if you're watching from YouTube, I'm a little square on the bottom left where everyone can see me, and they see you as well. You know, you just can't see me. But first and foremost, thank you for making time and being flexible. It's good to see your face again.
Likewise.
And I know we spoke previously, not really directly, but about the Valentine's Day event where we were talking in general about love. And here, just to give a little intro on the channel, but you know what? Let me slow down. First, I would like introduce yourself to current and future viewers, and go ahead and let them know who you are and what you got going on.
Sure. Hi, everyone. If you're streaming from YouTube, my name is Terry Shaw. I'm an inspirational speaker, author, and spiritual teacher. And I basically assist others in reconnecting with themselves, finding different ways and perspective about how to approach life from a more inner perspective versus outer perspective. I am currently working on my second book and a couple other projects, mainly focused on affirmations. If you affirm anything, you know there's power in the words. Working on books focusing on manifestations. If you're trying to achieve a certain type of goal, I'm creating separate methods that I've utilized in my life that work, and methods that others can also utilize in their life that I definitely feel like, will also work for them.
So thank you for that intro. And something I just want to point out as I kind of dissect a little bit with the channel, what I do here. I haven't been doing this for long. I work in the accounting department at my job during the day. I'm a purchasing coordinator. And so I do a lot with numbers and contracts and whatnot, but I do this as a hobby because, and I specifically focus on my last 3 years of experience because that's how long I've been living alone. But in 10 years of being single, which is way too long for my taste, something I noticed a common denominator in many of my experiences is the lack of direction, right? The lack of guidance people have in general when it comes to having a romantic relationship. So I figured, why not? Let me start this channel and just talk about it, where I share very specifically my experiences, and then I do this little balance where I'm like being philosophical but at the same time pragmatic. So it's good to understand the thinking behind it and then the actual practice, like what's the result through reality. And so that's pretty much what I do here on the channel. And overall, for the couple of videos that I already have out, most of it has been giving guidance on what I like to describe my more emotional male counterpart, how to not be finessed. And maybe you're already familiar with the term, but basically when a guy gets duped, bamboozled, or tricked into not only giving up time but X amount of resources or an experience or two for someone that wasn't genuinely trying to have something special with them. And again, so I say that from experience, not that recently happened to me, but just to kind of, from obviously when I was younger and it happened to me, how do you develop those senses to find what you're looking for by not bumping into what's not looking for you, right? So you don't necessarily know what you don't necessarily know what you want, but it's really good and helpful to know what you don't want. And just to kind of hear some of your thoughts behind the explanation so far before I move on, what do you think?
The last thing that really stuck out to me when you mentioned about, you're not sure what you want, and then also knowing what you don't want. And I think, from perspective, and if you're trying to manifest a relationship or a partnership that's in alignment with you, I think it's important to do focus on what you want and not what you don't want. Because what you don't want is what you continually keep seeing in other people, and then you don't give the opportunity for that partnership to develop, because you keep focusing, I don't want this, I don't want that, and you're going to keep seeing that. But then I definitely feel that it's important to focus on what you do want. And I've been there myself as someone who's been married and divorced. And, I was on the dating scene for a while, little long-term relationship, but then I also kept focusing on what I didn't want. Like, I don't want this guy to do this, I don't want him to do that. And I keep getting the same thing. And I was like, maybe I need to change the statements of exactly what I'm focusing on. Because, everything is energy, and what you focus more on is what you're going to keep getting. And so it's important, if you want a particular partner, the first thing that I always suggest is to write down exactly, not what your ideal partner, because the idea of ideal,
keep dreaming,
it doesn't exist to say ideal partner, because there's no such thing as a perfect person. Everyone is gonna come with certain levels of things that you can decide what you want to deal with and you don't want to deal with. But at the same time, at least make a list. And I keep my list at 12 max. 1 to 12.
Well, that's good. I mean, you're being specific. You got a number to it. Sorry.
I do. I'm a numbers person, as well. Being that I graduated from college with a mathematics degree, so
okay.
I'm very much a number person. So so I definitely feel like you should list out exactly what you want, and not based on the external, but more so on the inner aspect of what that person is gonna ultimately be in alignment with yourself. And then continue with the dating. I mean, you're always gonna find that you're gonna meet different type of people, different personalities. And I think what some people do is, like, they meet the one person and they say, oh, this is it. But then you didn't have the opportunity for it to grow. Like, you'll know when something is it once you feel it.
Well, when you invest some time, I think is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, what it looks like is one thing, but what it feels like is another. And that's kind of how you know. Being someone who is in a 3-year relationship after a very wonderful relationship, and it's because I actually stopped focusing on what I don't want, and it's focusing what I do want, and I did get everything that I wanted because of that. So
I'll certainly take this opportunity. I'm happy that we started getting into characteristics and elements of someone's personality. And so again, now to be a little bit more specific, in my first video, and because I think I'm a clever guy. There's this acronym I came up with. It's hidden, HIDDEN, and it's basically just a summary of the negative common denominators that I have bumped into that I notice is somewhat ubiquitous. And so the H standing for hedonistic, the I for immaturity, the D for delusional, the second D for double standards, the E is for elitism, and then the N for being narcissistic. And so I am not a pessimistic person by any means, but at the same time, I noticed that even though that may sound as a mouthful, generally these characteristics come in a basket. So obviously no one's a perfect person, as you mentioned, and shout outs to that first song I was playing. The song is called Perfect Person, by the way. But thank you, 7L. And yeah, like I said, generally these negative characteristics come in a basket or they're in pairs. And so it's one thing that obviously if you're dealing with someone who's a little bit immature, but now where the straw starts to break the camel's back is when they're also being a little bit too much of a handful, because now you start noticing over time, all right, they're being a little bit narcissistic. I don't see any reciprocation when it comes to, intimate gestures, or maybe the only suggestions they have to do something is going to Peter Luger's and flying to the other side of the world every 90 days or something like that. And so I just want to hear your thoughts on that. Am I explaining something that you noticed in everyday life? Am I way off the mark? Am I Alice in Wonderland, the male version? What are your thoughts?
So I'm on the show and you want my honest opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that's what I'm looking for. I just want honesty.
so here is what I would take from that. So you've already created this sense of acronyms that you are kind of noticing about people, right? The
Mm-hmm.
ones that you're interacting, and as you said, it comes in a basket. Now, with that being said, have you decided to create an acronym to balance this outlook?
Yes.
I wouldn't say with its negative outlook, but also positive of what you see, not hidden, but like.
I get what you're saying. It's called it's called the ability to cook.
To balance to see which one outweighs the other one, because again, we are masculine and feminine energy, and
Mm-hmm.
we are also a balance of the light and the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone, not no one is everyone comes with a balance of something. But then for some, the negative outweighs the positive, and then for some, the positive outweighs the negative. So where do you meet in the middle of that?
So me, just to be more specific, so me personally, the reason why I've been single for so long is because I grew up with a family, brothers and sisters, and both my parents, and so generally, in as I demonstrated in previous episodes of very specific scenarios, when I'm in the getting to know you phase, which 99.9% of the time, that kind of like makes and breaks if I decide to continue pursuing someone or not. I'm trying to get an idea from them on where they value the idea of family, or if that's something that even exists in their mind. And so, or just, well, because it's one thing if you're like a single child or something, you don't, obviously people don't control that. But what's being passed down to you, and where is that in, I don't want to say prioritize as in like you need that immediately, but I'm saying in terms of like, where is that in your scale of importance in terms of having a relationship with someone? And so that's generally, well, like I think I mentioned this already about the channel. So the word enemy being a fancy word for no direction. And then for me personally, when I have my, little relationships or I'm mingling with women, I always like it to have some kind of direction. And so generally it's always around the idea of family. And so when I say the counterbalance to the negative acronym of hidden, yeah, is the ability to cook, and of course maternal nature, and things that I believe make an outstanding mother. And so and I can go maybe give two or more three qualities, but I think I got the point across. And so again, you may not have a picture perfect of who the person you want to be with is, but then, and I am kind of repeating myself here, if I see an excess in those negative qualities that I listed, then I know where to stray away from, because again, people who generally have those not so ideal qualities there that come in a basket, they generally don't think about family. They're still being somewhat of a heathen and thinking about themselves only and what experiences they can have. And that's that, not to give the cherished cat a plug so soon, but again, right, like if you don't know what direction you're going, why go anywhere at all? And but again, that's just kind of like my take. And sorry that I try to balance being philosophical and pragmatic at the same time. So a question that I think is pretty important to ask, and I know sometimes it's really tough to answer. Yesterday I was with a guy named Mike, and I don't know why he couldn't just give me a straight answer. I thought it was kind of hilarious. I didn't say anything because I'm not here to antagonize anyone, but I thought it was pretty funny. So I wanted just to see how you respond. And so the question is, and I don't know if you're still in the dating arena and if you're interested in seeing someone. So I guess I'll start with that. Like, are you or not still like in the dating market as some people would describe it?
I'm definitely not in the dating market.
Got you. All right. So, and I have a backup plan for that. So we'll definitely pass that up, since it won't make sense to ask you that. I was gonna ask, how do you avoid meaningless dating? So I'll ask something. I'll ask something else, which I think is a pretty exciting thing to talk about: catfishing. And so, have you ever been catfished before?
Yes, I have. When I was in the streets.
Right, of course.
Yeah, I was catfished.
How?
It comes in different forms. When you say catfish, like there's the extreme one if you've seen the TV
The show, right?
So, but then in your mind, there's also the one where people lie about who they are and what they have and all these things. So that's some level or version of, not to the extreme level like the TV show, but there are some
Right.
levels of catfishing in your mind where like this person was not being honest, or they would send pictures of themselves, but you're only seeing the top half. You've never seen what it looks like, and you finally meet the person like, wait, yeah.
What's going on here?
And like, if I thought you were like 5'8", but you're like 7 feet. I don't know. So some of these things are little level of catfishing. And being the person, I'm a very open-minded person, and I try to say, oh, okay, so they're not that short, like they said, like because
Right.
at the time, to me, mattered. So, but when you start with those little things that first is the hype, then you're gonna start little patterns of other things that you weren't catfish. But this is where you say, oh, this is a red flag. You don't want to continue where this person's constantly changing your stories and things are just not adding up anymore. So at that point,
I
it's
agree
time
with
to
that.
cut the cord and walk away from that.
I certainly agree with that. And if you don't mind me pressing, because this is certainly obviously not the first time I meet a lady who tells me, they've been catfished before, but I always think it's pretty interesting how men do it generally, from just obviously from my own anecdotal experiences. Men do it differently than what a woman does. And so if you don't mind embellishing some details about your personal experience when it happened to you.
I guess it was the height thing for me.
Oh, okay. So they ended up being like a giant.
Yeah, basically. I don't. At the again at the time, I
Right.
had specific say what I was looking for, but then the way the pictures were cut, it made them seem that they were. And then I was told I was also 5'8" or something, or like 7 feet. And and I was a little biased to that. I admittedly, I was a bit biased to that.
Right.
And that kind of, it did not seal the deal. Like, oh, you told me this, but then I tried to have a little open mind. But
Right.
then sometimes when we do that, we're cutting ourselves short from knowing what the truth is, and then you start seeing that person showing little patterns of other things, like when, oh, I don't have any kids. Turns out they have 2 kids, 3
Yep.
kids. Those are some versions of catfishing. They're like, well, you just ultimately call it lies. But I think when you think of the essence of what catfishing, as you describe it in modern cultures, when someone portrays that they're this way and then it turns out that you're not,
Well,
it goes across all levels.
I normally get a lot of flack and negative criticism with people that talk about these stories in person. I haven't made a video about it yet, but I intend to. But thank you for sharing. And so me personally, yes, as you can imagine, I've been catfished before. But generally, because I'm a little bit altruistic, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't like to think that, the average person that I meet on a dating app, because that's the only way it could happen, is out here looking to deceive me. But to your point, as you're saying, that's really the fundamental element of catfishing is you're trying to gain something through deception. And so me in particular, and unfortunately in multiple scenarios, what happened to me is that because I don't want to press the subject on how they look, so I was like, okay, I'm not going to ask for extra pictures or a video chat, and it always ends up biting. Well, not always, but for the most part, ends up biting me. And then when I go and meet them in person, they end up being 40, 50, 60 pounds bigger than the pictures that they shared with me, and I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, what is going on here? But me, I'm a pretty compassionate person, so it's not like I immediately disappear or walk away from them because okay, yeah, you got some work to do in terms of the physical fitness department, but they're still a wonderful person in terms of their personality. And
And that's important.
and so I bring this up because the interesting thing then becomes in these scenarios, which is my next point, is albeit this quasi relationship has and I say quasi relationship because I don't mean relationship as in like, oh yeah, we're intimate with each other. I mean like we're talking to each other, we met in person, now we're trying to see where does this go. And so although it started on the foundation of deception, what's interesting is that when I share my concerns, and almost all the time I get greeted with rage and anger, they issue an ultimatum to me, which I think is somewhat hilarious, where it's like, well, you accept me for who I am or nothing at all. And I was like, well, I'll take nothing at all.
I have to interject there.
Sure.
In that if someone is saying you accept me for who I am, or you take nothing at all. In the beginning, when they did not disclose, they didn't accept themselves for who they are. So how do they expect someone else to accept them for who they are?
And
I because if you're gonna go out on a limb and hide your features, tell lies about your weight in the beginning, if you're out there looking for someone to appreciate you for who you are, you accept yourself as you are, and you say, hey, listen, I'm a little bit on the overweight side, and you don't have to explain yourself. Like, that's what acceptance of yourself is. If you have to explain yourself why you're overweight or whatnot in the beginning, and you don't have to lie about it, then that's a problem. And then say later on, like, you don't accept me for you have to go. You didn't accept yourself in the beginning because you didn't disclose, or you didn't you lied about your weight. Then how can anyone else accept you? And
Right.
it all starts with it all starts with the self. Like,
I
people are
agree.
so much expectations out there for what they want from other people, but then they're not willing to meet or align to that themselves.
And that
It's,
goes back to the double standards, right? Back to the acronym where it's like, okay, you make demands of other people in areas that you don't demand from yourself, and I don't. The bigger picture to that is not that it just ends at a double standard. Is that it just goes to show that there's a lack of self reflection there too, and so for me, I vehemently agree with your overall explanation. I just think it's interesting in these particular examples where, again, obviously in polite, kind way, I tell them what my concerns are and their willingness to address it. And then again, when it gets met with rage and ridicule, it's like, well, you know, the whole. I just want to be careful how I describe this. It's somewhat of like a child, like right. It's kind of like a childish thing, right? Where it's like a baby, if it doesn't get what it wants, it cries, it looks to annoy their parents to see if they can bend their will, and then it's like, well, you know, it's like, this isn't Blue's Clues, right? Like, you're just not gonna change reality because you say some magic words. It's like I could just walk away, like I'm 30. Most of the time these women are, between 30 34 years old, and it's like in order for an ultimatum to work, you have to have leverage. And it's like, we're just meeting. Like, it's not like we've been talking 6 7 months, something happens, and then you're like, well, do you want things to stop right here? Or like, and so it's just odd, and I don't think I'll ever be able to wrap my brain around it, but I think it always makes for a somewhat meaningful dialogue, because it's it's an idea that never works with a desired result, and in reality, hence why it's somewhat delusional to do it. And so I don't know if you have a concluding remark for it, but I want to go ahead and switch gears here, and I'll see if this screen share works. So from time to time, I take screenshots of things that I encounter in the online dating world, since Google doesn't have the ability to screenshot reality yet, and that was somewhat of a joke. And
can I ask you one question though?
sure,
Is
sure.
this actual people?
I mean, I believe so. I don't. Um,
Oh, because honestly, I would rather not discuss if it's actual people just for consent reasons.
no, no, like everything is like blacked out. This is not. This is not.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
isn't an attempt for defamation here. No, this
Oh,
is.
okay,
We're not doing
good.
that. We're not doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, no. So as you can see, blacked out, blacked out. You're not gonna see or know who this
Okay.
individual is.
Great.
Uh, we don't do that here. We don't do that
Great.
here. Um, and so, but typically this is where I like to like kick a little knowledge from scenarios here, and where this folder lives is when, like, right, when to unmatch. And so, yeah, people have their reservations and their criticisms about online dating. I mean, it won't change the fact that X amount of people use it, but it's still, the advice is still practical, because you could also use it in person, because generally you're just trying to get an idea of when someone likes you and when someone doesn't
Mm,
like you. And I just wanted to get your take on this scenario. And I don't recall how long ago this was. I think this was last year in the
okay.
summer. And so my words are the ones that are in purple.
Yeah.
And for what I can remember, there's like a decent amount of back and forth, and I it seemed like it was at a good position where I could like start asking them more about their background and what they're looking for, since they disclosed X amount of information about themselves to me, right? And again, I don't go walking around assuming everyone I meet is a liar. Uh, so she told me her shift was okay, just got off, haven't met anyone serious. And I was like, okay, I could relate. And so I just wanted to ask her, what are you looking for in a spouse? Because in previous messages, she was saying she was looking for the same thing I was looking for. Hence why I asked that question. It wasn't like out of the blue or out of nowhere. And then she writes, I usually don't say. I get to know the person and then decide if we're compatible. But I expect the basic like honoring God, honesty, communication, and comprehension, selflessness. Uh, so the reason why I'm not showing any messages after this is because at this point I knew this wasn't going anywhere, and I cut it loose. And so what what's your take? What do you think?
It's, honestly, it's very difficult to say because, and I'm just going off feelings here, just not beyond what I've seen. I'm going off feelings. So it just seems like a good regular day in the dating app. And there was just not any like true like connection between the both of you. It's just like, okay, what are you looking for? Is it almost generic? It didn't seem a bit organic, like this flow of what you'll want when you connect with someone. And her expectations seems very reasonable, I think. And she outlaid it, honoring God, honesty, communication, comprehension. That really stood out to me because I'm like, what does that mean? And selflessness, which is, something that most people would have. But then she said, I usually don't say. I get to know the person and decide if we're compatible. And then, I don't
I
know,
think
it
that's
just
the
seems
red
bland.
flag.
It just seems bland. There's just no
I think
fusion
that's
here.
the red flag. So assuming you take my word for it and just believe that there was, as far as text messages go, meaningful dialogue from my end before that question came up, uh, I would say that
What
that's
was
the red flag. I
what was the
usually
red
don't
flag
say.
that what was the red flag that really stood out to you though? I want to know your
Yeah,
what
sure.
was the
Thanks for asking. Where she says, I usually don't say I get to know the person, then decide if we're compatible. So in one of my videos, I describe, in particular, there was this video where I was talking about, because the way my New Year started off is that there was this woman who was, what I strongly believe, was parading around to be a Christian woman. And so it's a lot of, and it'll continue to be this way, but my videos basically cover different finesse strategies that I came across, right? The different types of way women, unfortunately enough, in my experience, have conjured up stories about themselves to put themselves in advantageous positions. And so it is not, to my understanding of just being a human being with functional faculties, it is not conducive for someone to say, I want something or I'm looking for this, and then not take steps towards that, right? Like that's called cognitive dissonance. And so for her to say in previous messages here, again, just if you take my word for it and assume I'm not lying, to say, hey, I'm looking for the same thing you are, X, Y, and Z, but then to literally contradict herself right here and then say, I usually don't say, I get to know the person and decide if we're compatible. And so it seems like to me that she wants to see uh, where's my aces at, and then she'll make a determination if I'm quote unquote worthy of for her to, I don't know, continue allowing me to approach her. And so, as a person who's pretty experienced with women, and I don't say that with any bone to gloat, uh, typically when I ask that question, and I am dealing with a lady who's legitimately interested in me, they don't respond with a lack of direction. Hence
I
why that
mean,
was a red flag for me, because it's like there's no plan here.
yeah,
You're just trying to see what I
okay,
got and then maybe move from there.
yeah. So of course I don't know the entire
Of course,
conversation.
right,
So based on what you just said in terms of the beginning when she said, I want the same thing that you want, but then later on, I kind of there's a switcheroo to this aspect of it. Um, and I feel it's okay for people to sometimes, as they're talking to someone, to decide or not decide whether they want to continue or not. I don't think it necessarily what she's saying here is the wrong thing. She's trying to think about what's best for herself, and that's important when you're getting
sure,
in with someone. But again, I didn't see the whole conversation, so I can't say if she's just switching words to make it like advantageous for herself. But maybe as the conversation started developing, she decides, okay, maybe I should start speaking more and more. Because, in the beginning, we're all somebody we want other people to see. And then later on, we start coming more in tune with who we are. So maybe that's probably what was like the red flag to you, that said, okay,
right,
I want someone to be up direct. And some people don't like that. Some people don't like people who are too direct. Like, oh, they say whatever's on their mind, and everyone wants persons to like them, so they say whatever to get to this point where they're having long, full conversations, and then later on, more starts spilling, and they will start. I wouldn't say judge or assume, but they start to kind of like evaluate what
right.
is the direction of what it will look like with this person just based on conversation or just the wording and things don't add up.
So let me
And that's okay. This is all part of the dating process. There's a reason why it's called dating too. There's like a date-led process involved with
oh, there
determining of
certainly is. I
certain
don't,
people have
I don't, I don't, uh, I don't disagree with that at all. It certainly is a process, and for the sake of time, hence why this particular screenshot here lives in a folder called "When to Unmatch." But um,
you really a folder of when to unmatch.
I do. Again, I haven't done anything like that in my channel yet, but now everyone has a preview of what to expect in the future when I have more free time. But
You
my
should write a book about that. When to unmatch. That sounds awesome.
uh, thank you. Something I'll consider. But honestly, something I wanted to ask you since you talked about it, um, direct versus, I guess, not being direct. Do
Hmm.
you would it be fair to describe that that's an element of immaturity if someone gets put off by someone being direct?
Um,
Do you think
no,
that's a fair analysis or no?
it depends. I can't say. It all depends on the person, and sometimes sometimes we, like you said in the very beginning, we don't know what we want,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't, and we know what we don't want, right? So you have someone who's very direct in opinion, like I'm this, I'm that, and you're like, oh, great, awesome. But then that directness, as you're continuing to develop in a conversation with the person, can be a turnoff later on too. And then some people are not so direct. They share a little bit here and there, and then later on they become more, as they become comfortable with you, comfortable with the conversation, then they start really revealing a little bit more about themselves, and that can be taken direct too. So I mean, there's no really definition or way to describe it. I think it all depends on what someone is looking for and what their goal is when they're seeking a partner or what they're seeking to develop with someone else. And sometimes it's in alignment, sometimes it's not in alignment, and sometimes it's just go with the flow and see what happens.
Right, which I think this person very much so was looking to do, but like I said, when I turn to the experiences where the more positive ones, I generally understand that being direct is a good tool to save myself some time, but generally when, again, just speaking from my own experiences, someone who's ready and willing to reciprocate, often it just gets appreciated. But
Okay.
but thank you for the feedback. I think it helps add some perspective here. And so, which brings me to my next thing, where so I'm not, like I had to explain in the last video, with my last guest. I think it's I only use like these dating app stuff because it helps me describe things that I also bump into in person, excuse me. And so I know some people get put off and they see like, oh wow, why are you taking all these screenshots of stuff online and blah blah blah. And it's like, well, no way you're gonna sit here and tell me you don't bump into this in person, because if you haven't, then by my meter, you're not that social. Like I've been around the block. I'll put it to you that way. And and so I just think it's very helpful, this whole screenshot thing, because now I can document it and I don't have to go off of memory. And so I just want to read this thing to you, and then I want you to tell me how old you think this person is. So I'll start. I am a sensitive person who likes to take care of others, but does not like getting taken advantage of. I'm a woman with ambition and a heart of gold. I like to go shopping, I like to go shopping and out to eat. Vacations are a must. I love travel, explore, and see the world. Looking for a friend that can turn into a lifetime partner. I am independent and needing someone to match that same energy so we can evolve together. You just have to be kind, caring, and spontaneous. Life is too short, and I just want to enjoy every moment.
So that could be any woman's age in these days, to be honest. But
I vehemently agree with
for the
you.
purpose of your question, the traditional stereotype of what that person would sound like, because we don't know, right? The traditional stereotype sounds like someone approaching their 30s, maybe.
You think so? So somewhere late 20s?
Late 20s.
All right, that was a fair guess. I would think something younger, but this person is actually 30. So that was a really good guess on you. Think so for me. I'm not picking on this person in particular. I never messaged or wrote this person. I just thought sometimes I just read these dating profiles, and I think sometimes it's a little bit interesting how, like you said, somewhat generic statements and that get made, and nowadays everyone thinks that they're a shining star, and nothing particularly wrong with that. But I also believe in.
Nothing is wrong.
There's something wrong with it if you're a goal-orientated person, because you have to be grounded and rooted in reality to effectively plan your next move. But it just bolsters my point originally that in the dating scene now, no one takes romantic relationships seriously, because they do the exact opposite of what I'm saying. They're not realistic when they enter this space. And so one thing I in particularly think is funny and is similar to a completely different thing that I showed my buddy Mike last night was where this person puts some emphasis on vacations are a must. Um, I haven't met too many human beings that do not like taking vacations, especially if they work hard. And I just want to get your opinion about that. What do you think there's a deeper meaning when they put emphasis on that? Like what's from I guess your social circle? How do people talk about vacations?
Uh, Vacations has a lot of different connotations and definitions to people. Vacation could just be in your own home, but clearly it's stated here to see the world. So, and not many people want to travel anywhere else but to their backyards. Um,
Nothing
it's
wrong with
true.
that. I mean,
True,
I'm
because some people vacation to them is a downtime in their home, just not going anywhere. That's vacation to them. And some people vacation is like going abroad to China, to Japan, to Norway. When these places, it all depends on what the person likes. So vacations are a must. I mean, it's. I honestly wouldn't have put that in there if that was not. Um,
I think that's interesting.
it, it can be like someone who is it can come off as someone who's demanding and very social and probably too social. Some people like that and some people don't.
Right.
And that's okay. She is stating what she likes, and sometimes that's important so that she doesn't waste her time with someone who's like, oh, I don't like to go anywhere. She's already putting it out there that this is what she does. So if she's gonna meet someone who's not willing to meet her on that level, like, I love to go travel and stuff like that, and if you're not willing to join, I'm just gonna be doing it by myself, and that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with that, to be
Hmm.
honest. It may just come off a little bit too like direct, and this is the part about being too direct. Sometimes it can turn people off,
That's
but
interesting because
she
I
is
wouldn't
definitely stating what it is she likes to do.
I
So,
wouldn't even describe that as being direct. I would call that being pretentious.
mm. You can. I mean, it perception is all. I don't know. I would even. Maybe that's not the word of choice, but that's how you're seeing it. Um, it's it all depends on what she is, what her. She says I'm independent. So it sounds like someone who is very well, educated, I would say, and someone who is making their own money. So, and they like to have fun with the money that they're making, and that's okay.
Right.
So,
But here
and
they are on a
they
dating
have
app.
goals to live life, and that's okay.
Hey, but to your own admission, then when I laughed, I didn't mean that in a negative way. I just thought I was honestly just extremely surprised to hear it come out. I think yes, most people, men in particular, I think when they hear vacation, yeah, you want to chill. You may or may not want to go travel somewhere, but yeah, my backyard, if you have one, or even if it's your couch, is my destination. I'm I'm out and about
Yeah.
like so often,
And
like
if,
Jesus.
and if COVID hasn't taught us anything, vacation in our homes have become a norm.
Oh
So,
well.
you know,
Well, that's actually a special topic I'll save for another day. But
but it's yeah, again direct, but at the same time she's making it known what she likes, and that's nothing wrong with that.
and before I switch gears and I would like to try to have the last word here, not for ego purposes, but just for the purposes to segue. Um, I would say it's pretentious, and I appreciate. I believe you're being honest with me because if I'm getting surprised by some of the things you say, and I'm really a hard guy to surprise, that's because I'm seeing something as uncommon. And so I say that because through your own admission of saying, most people probably don't like to travel, and specifically curtail that to men in general. Obviously, not every guy, but just men in general. And then to really put that out there, like, yes, I understand it's a filter, but it's also kind of like a push against reality, right? Like, if I know the average person, makes about 50K, and I believe it's actually lower than that, but let's just say for New York City standards, uh, the average, I think, salary the last time I looked it up, which is probably a year and a half ago, I think about $53,000. And I say, hey, I'm only, I'm only looking for people who chill at Peter Luger's and can take a last minute flight to Hawaii. But I know what I know. I mean, again, there's this contradiction against reality that's being marketed, that's being advertised, and so that's why I say pretentious. Because again, I don't know this person from a hole in the wall. Maybe they were brought up that way, and so therefore not pretentious. But I know the average person isn't inheriting a lifestyle of opulence either. So, but that's just my take. Hence why I didn't write this person. I just thought it would make for meaningful dialogue. So I actually don't have anything else here. Let me stop the screen share from here. While there's a little bit of time left, I know some people are thinking, why did I name the thing "Standing on Your Head"? And so I just wanted to share this with you. Someone at work thought that this was pretty funny. It's basically just how I feel when I go through dating life and I run into the things that I do. I'm forgetting how to spell. That is not. Is this it right here? No, I think that's the wrong one. My apologies.
That's okay.
Maybe I should have. I didn't think we'd get through this fast. Cheshire. I just had it the other day. Come on. Well, by other day I mean yesterday. All right, here it is. So let me pull this up again. Maybe you wondered yourself too, why was there this cat from Alice in Wonderland on the flyer?
Oh, by the way.
Oh, it's not the whole thing. I just think he had a very important lesson to teach people about direction. Lack of direction.
Where was I?
What the hell? It's like slow motion. What's going on? Why can't I find this? Well, I think this is. Oh, here we go. I think this is it. Okay, I think I got it for real this time.
Okay.
There we go. I like to think that my suit matches with his fur.
Oh, that's quite all right. 1 minute, please. Ooh. Second chorus. It was brilliant, and the slimy told saved the guy and fell him away.
Why, you're a cat.
A Cheshire cat, all of him. Oh, what a
Oh, wait. Don't go, please.
Very well.
So this is the most important
No,
part.
no, no. Thank you, but I just wanted to ask you which way I ought to go.
Well, that depends on where you want to get to.
Oh, it really doesn't matter. As long as I...
Then it really doesn't matter which way you go.
And typically that's how I feel, and I just disappear. You ask that question, where's the direction in your life, and
Dear.
then when they say it doesn't matter, well, I think it kind of does matter. And so I know that's kind of a stretch of a metaphor there, but there you go, standing on your head.
Stand on your head.
So I'm working on that analogy, but that's all I have for you. Of course, I want to let you have the last word here, and again, feel free to plug yourself. Let current and future viewers know what you got going on for yourself, and thank you once again for making time and showing up.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Very interesting conversation. As someone who haven't been on the dating scene in the last 3 years, but I was for around, I would say, 5 years,
Right.
kind of. Yeah, I would say 5 years. And it wasn't, it was a lot of ups and downs. Somewhere you think this is it, and somewhere you're like, oh no, this is not it. And but the most important thing is to be patient with yourself. Is my advice for anyone who's still in the dating scene, and let go of any control or belief about how you expect or who you think you should end up with or what that person might look like. Because I can tell you off the bat, and just from my experience, it might be different for everyone else, is that you never know who you'll end up with, but you'll feel it and you'll know it for sure, and then there won't be any questions to it. And you're gonna be able to accept both whatever hidden qualities that person may have, or what that person is revealing to you, and you're gonna see the balance in it all, and will come full circle to in the relationship and to yourself. And another most important thing that I advise as well is that always make sure that you're taking care of you, taking care of yourself first before you get into a relationship with anyone else. Because sometimes we see people, they tend to be a reflection of what it is we don't want, and then in turn it's stuff that we haven't already worked on in our own being as yet.
And that's pretty deep. So
That's my take on that. No, it's very true, and a lot of people don't realize it. I didn't realize it, and it's something that I had to come in my own self-realization, and in order for me to move forward and to connect with someone. And I'm telling you, like 3 years, and my relationship is going great. Yes, there are ups and downs. Don't get me wrong, but the ups and downs was minuscule compared to like the love and the connection that I have with my partner. So and it's because I had no expectations, but yes, I did set goals and in what I want and not focusing what I did not.
right. So again, I appreciate you showing up. Thank you for sharing and being honest. And I wish you all the best.
Oh, well, in order for I have to be honest, because otherwise, it not just makes for great content, but it makes for people to see things from a different perspective sometimes.
Well, what I would always say, and especially in the context of date life, and particularly when you really want to be with someone, better to be in 10 or 15 minutes of discomfort from someone being honest with you than to lie with them to them, and then over time, when when and if that ever comes to light, it's things would just immediately end because of it. And so that's just my take. You know, sometimes people can't handle the very very short duration of the discomfort, and it's just like, well, you know, maybe we still have some areas where we need to grow in. But that's just my take, though.
And and that's fine. And sometimes this is where the element of we were friends before we were lovers thing kind of happen, because when you're just talking to someone as a friend, and then you're more open and honest, versus when people are just focused like I just want a spouse in the beginning, when they're just seeing that person getting more intimate with them, there's all these layers of I need to show this side of me or that side of me, in the beginning, and then you're in it, and then later on, all of you drop. I mean, all of you start to be shown and known, and they're like, wait, you weren't like this in the beginning. That's why they call it the honeymoon,
Right.
phase of anything. But it's important, yeah, like you said, to be open and honest about who you are. And if someone doesn't like you, they just don't like you, and that's okay. There's plenty. I'm not gonna say fish in the sea. There's plenty of people. There's plenty
Stars in the
of
sky. I don't know. Like,
there's plenty of human beings out there. I'm gonna say that. Oh,
well, once again, Terry, thank you for the candidness, and
you're
thank you for
welcome.
joining me. And hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You too. Likewise.
Take care now.
Bye.
So I certainly thought that was a productive conversation. Hopefully, you guys at home enjoyed yourselves. I think overall they were being candid. Uh, there was a number of things, obviously, that they were saying that I necessarily don't agree with, but I thought it was more important to not share what I disagree with, but to peel back more of the things, have them explain it more rather than just share my point and why I disagree with. And so typically that's just my style of trying to understand someone, right? Because it shouldn't be about why my point is over yours. Is more about like, where did you get that understanding from? And it all comes full circle, and hopefully these types of discussions help you ladies and gentlemen listening into present and future, that meaningful dialogue really is about inspection, and that's how you get to know their values and beliefs. But it can only work if they're willing. And so as I wrap up and conclude here, because I got a Broadway show to go to, if you guys are interested in coming up on the show, please feel free to shoot me an email. It should be there, or leave a comment below, or go ahead to the summary page on the YouTube channel and shoot me an email. I would love to hear some of your perspectives on some of these topics and receipts that I share, and have a semi philosophical / practical discussion about the contemporary date scene. And so, as always, keep your purpose near you, hunt for it, pave that road ahead of you, and enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys, and take care.